So good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Delighted to have you here with us this morning, where we are talking about outsourced finance in 2026 and what does good look like and how do you get there. We are delighted to have ApprovalMax as our app of the month for October. I'm really pleased to have Peter with us to join us for the session today and share some of his wisdom with you as we take you through this session. We will definitely be done within the hour. We normally allow 45 minutes, but occasionally the conversations are so good that we keep going a little bit longer and we can take questions, but we will definitely wrap up for you by 11:30 UK time. I'm going to, first of all, the chat box is here. Please feel free to add any comments as we go through. Q&A box should also be working for you as well today. Let's get cracking and get underway. So first of all, anybody that doesn't know me, my name is Will Farnell. I'm a director at TC Farnell Clark. We joined TC Group back in March, but I'm also co-founder at App Advisory Plus, and we love bringing you these sessions on a monthly basis. And I'm delighted that Peter's joined me today. Good morning, Peter. Do you want to give a quick introduction?
Yeah, thanks. Well, I'm Peter Magner from Cape Town, South Africa, and I am one of the directors at Iridium Business Solutions. We have a couple of other things that we also work on, but Iridium is my kind of 85% of the day. And I'm a sales marketing director, but I'm also an accountant. So I wear a few hats within the business.
That's an interesting combination, Peter. An accountant that also does marketing, kind of a bit of a rare breed, isn't it?
I'd say so, but it does really help me because I get to dive into how we sell our products and how we can sell more of them, and I get to chat to lots of people and lots of clients about our brand. So I find it it stimulates both sides of the brain.
Great, and I'm sure that I will call on some of that knowledge and expertise during the session today. You're very kindly here representing our good friends at ApprovalMax. So you obviously are a super user of ApprovalMax. So just in case anybody doesn't know who ApprovalMax are and what they do you want to just give a quick intro on their behalf?
Yeah, I think I've worked with them probably for about 9 years now. Essentially, yeah, I normally say to most SaaS providers, you got to keep it stupid simple. Essentially, ApprovalMax helps you streamline your approval workflows. So instead of having a piece of paper that you're signing manually and trying to upload and scan, you just send your digital documents through and it kind of directs to the various approvers and make sure that things like purchase orders, invoices, credit notes, journals, all get approved by the right people in time, and you've got better visibility of kind of any bottlenecks of people that haven't yet signed that need to sign.
Great. And we're obviously going to have an opportunity to talk about that because certainly I think you and I both share the view that when we talk about good outsourced finance, a key part of that is managing risk. And clearly it's a big part of what we're going to talk about during the session today. So that's intros out of the way. Thank you very much indeed for that. In terms of what we're going to cover off, and I'll take the slides down in just a moment to get into conversation with Peter. But this is broadly what we're going to cover in the next 50 minutes or so for you. So first of all, what does good outsourced finance look like? What's going on in the market, and why are we focused now on what this might look like in 2026 and beyond? There's always this talk about shifting from compliance to advisory. What does that really mean? And my view is certainly that client expectations are changing. So we'll get Peter's view on that as well. What are the challenges that firms are likely to face in the next 12, 24, 36 months? There's a huge amount going on in our world at the moment. And you'll notice that we haven't even mentioned AI in those challenges, but I'm sure we'll touch on that as well. I've already mentioned that if you're running really good outsourced finance, controls, risk management, all of this kind of stuff is absolutely critical. So we'll talk a little bit about the way that certainly ApprovalMax helps with that, but also what we need to do in terms of delivering these services to our clients. We'll touch a little bit on tech and automation, because that's key to doing this stuff efficiently and effectively. And finally, hopefully, we'll be able to share a few practical steps for you wherever you are at the moment, whether you are thinking that you should be offering these services, you're already starting to offer these services, or you're already doing it at scale, and just here to see if there's any words of wisdom that you pick up from Peter or I during the course of the session. So that's what we're going to talk about. So I'm going to stop sharing slides now, and we'll get into the conversation. So I think, Peter, as a starter, we talk about outsourced finance. What does that mean to you when you talk to clients about offering outsourced finance function or outsourced finance services or financial operations or whatever people choose to call this, CAS in the US? What does it mean to you? How do you differentiate that from the kind of run-of-the-mill bookkeeping and accounts prep and in our world VAT, all of that kind of stuff? Where's the difference?
Yeah, so I think I see it as like a bundled offering that comes alongside a business. So we normally talk about we're a company's finance partner, where they don't have the skills in-house to run the full finance function. They don't just want a bookkeeper who has a bookkeeping diploma that doesn't know what they're doing, because then they also don't know how to oversee that person. So yeah, that bookkeeper could do a horrible job. The business owner would have no idea.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're taking over that finance function, well, you're also looking at having more senior people that oversee that bookkeeper. And you're covering kind of a range of services that the client doesn't need to think about that overall area of their business. It just gets done. I also kind of think, like, as a partner, a client might not know how to do finance or accounting or tax, but they still need the insights and a sounding board to actually run their business better and have better financial understanding. So I normally see the role of an outsourced finance person both doing tasks and also working with the clients to help them understand their finances, because it's a scary area for a lot of businesses.
Yeah, and I think what I've seen certainly in the UK over a number of years is that there are firms that are doing bookkeeping, they're doing that, they might do a bit of management accounts on a quarterly basis, and then they'll do year-end compliance. And historically, that's been referred to as business services or business support services. But more recently, people have started to talk about that as outsourced finance. And I don't think that's quite it, is it? I think we go another level, and we do that for a big part of our client base. But then we have a team that works as an outsourced finance function, and they do a whole bunch of other stuff. They'll do credit control, they'll manage accounts at inboxes, they will certainly do systems reviews before we start working with a client to understand what systems and processes are in place, and utilizing tools like ApprovalMax and Chaser for credit control, and we're delivering a much more rounded service. And as well as that, we also have significantly different SLAs in terms of response times. And the way I always kind of talk about this is that when we're running an outsourced finance function, rather than doing a bit of outsourced bookkeeping, it's almost got to feel like the client can walk down the corridor and speak to the finance team. And that's always kind of my analogy with it, in that we've got to be so responsive that it's like we're in their office at the end of the corridor. I mean, how does that compare to kind of the differences with what you're seeing in South Africa with firms that are doing bookkeeping? And I love that they're doing bookkeeping. I love they're doing management accounts and all of those kind of things. But what is it that people listening to this should be thinking if they want to move from perhaps delivering bookkeeping to delivering an outsourced finance function?
Yeah, I think it's like for me, the big difference between what you've described is the one is, yeah, I'm in charge of doing some bookkeeping and that's all I do. The other is, well, how do we help the business run better?
Mm.
It's almost being a little bit more proactive and saying, well, if we put in a bit, if we advise that there's a system out there can do something, well, it's going to improve the client's overall finance function.
Mm,
You're not putting it in there because you want to make more money off the client. You're putting it in there because you're improving how they do finance and how their business runs.
mm,
You're wanting to reach out quickly because you've got a vested interest in the client doing better. That's why I talk about the like partner concept,
yep,
because when you're a partner, if it's like a marital partner, you're working together towards a common goal. Whereas if you're just a service provider, well, you're just looking at, if I just do that thing, I'm going to move on and everything's good. Whereas a partner wants to try and find better ways of doing things and understand the business so that they know where they can add value. It's not saying you should be suddenly over delivering, but I think it's, how can you deliver a better service?
yep,
Should you be picking up the phone and going, hey, Will, how's the business going? It looks like your numbers are a little bit down. I just want to understand a bit more. For me,
yep,
that's a finance partner. A bookkeeper types in a number and sees the profit goes down and moves on. Whereas a
yep.
partner goes, why did it go down? I want to find out. I want to see, is there something we can do to help with that?
And what are the specific things that that you're doing in terms of the way you build your workflows and the way you manage the relationship with the client? I mean, I'm going to make an assumption here that you're doing daily bookkeeping or daily processing and all of these kind of things as well, which is obviously something I've been a huge advocate of for a very, very long time. But what are you doing or what are you helping your team do to make sure that they're having those right conversations? 'Cause I think this is sometimes a challenge for firms, isn't it? How do we build in systems? It's fine for you or I as the business owners to kind of do this, but as we scale, because this is about being scalable, isn't it? What are you doing internally to ensure your team are able to deliver this at scale?
Yeah, I think it's building a culture of understanding around what, we're not just here to tick boxes and do a job. We're here to connect with our clients. We're here to, build relationships and educate them. So, it's
Mm,
silly things like, what are your values? Do you have any values? What kind of culture are you trying to instill in your firm? What are the people you're hiring? We hire really smart people because we want them to be able to send a good email, understand things, and execute well, and be able to pick up the phone and have a conversation with our clients.
yeah,
That's harder to teach if you're hiring somebody that can't do any of those things.
yeah,
Then it's about equipping them with the right tools and processes.
yeah,
So, the more you build out your processes and interrogate them and go, can we do this better? What are the tools that can help us do tax better? What are the kind of rhythms that you want your team to be engaging with your clients?
mm,
What's your onboarding experience like?
yeah,
Um, do you do as you said, a full review of the client when they come on board? What does that even look like? Do you check their taxes and move on? Do you look at their chart of account, what type of business they're running, and try and already provide some better ways of structuring things?
yeah.
And yeah,
So it's about careful planning of client touch points, isn't it? Because you mentioned onboarding there, and it's really important that you get the onboarding bit right. Great, one opportunity to make great first impression and all of those kind of things. But from there, it's how do we create those regular touch points? How do we make sure that our teams understand what those touch points are intended to do, and so on. So I'm kind of with you on that. And I don't want to use the words what do you think firms are doing wrong, because that's not where we want to go. But what do you think are the opportunities that firms are missing in terms of, because for me this is a massive opportunity. So I did a LinkedIn post and said all the smart firms now are looking at outsourced finance function. So why do you think we're kind of cottoned on to that as the direction of travel? And what are the opportunities that you think firms might be missing by not doing this right?
Yeah, I think what maybe starting with what are they missing? I think most accounting firms that I've seen out there are overcomplicating their product offering and underpricing themselves.
Yeah.
And um, yeah,
And
I'm
those two are
gonna
linked, aren't they, as well, Peter? So actually, if you're underpricing and undervaluing, often it's because you don't know what your proposition is and can't therefore price it effectively because there's all this kind of fuzz around what it is you're actually offering. So you talked about, just to keep it simple, stupid, and it's kind of that, isn't it? Like you've got to be really clear. I say to people, you've got to understand what you do, and what you do isn't do accounts and tax. It's like what's the real impact of the things that you do, and I've said in my books that it's really easy to grow an accounting firm. It's much harder to scale an accounting firm. And actually, what if you have a really clear message and you communicate it effectively, growth will come. And I know that you and I had a conversation when we were planning this webinar that the marketing thing is a real challenge, which is why I obviously picked up on your kind of bio at the beginning there. It's firms struggle understanding what they do, and therefore can't communicate that, and then have complications with pricing because they're pricing the wrong thing. Does that
yeah.
what's your
Well,
thoughts on that?
yeah, like I do a bit of coaching for accounting firms, and yeah, I did a session yesterday with one of my firms, and I said, can you, if you were to send me a proposal, what would it look like? And they had 19 separate line items that were separately priced as the service offering. And I looked at it and I just said, like, if I'm not an accountant, I'm already confused and I'm overwhelmed because it's just too much. And
Mm.
am I allowed to just say no to a bunch of these? Like, is that okay? And we got down to, yeah, at the end of the session, we got down to 8 service offerings
Yep.
that are a lot easier to understand and communicate. So I think just looking at what you're offering and packaging it better automatically will lead to more sales.
Yep.
And then for me, yeah, as you said, most firms do very little marketing, and they probably outsource their marketing, and it's okay to outsource. Like we're an outsourced finance provider, but who internally is owning that function? Because
Mm.
one of the executive team need to say, I'm in charge of marketing. Um,
Yep.
I'm in charge of setting the strategic direction for that. I'm in charge of approving, monitoring, and making sure that the kind of the what we're trying to achieve and what we're trying to put out into the world is being done. We're creating the brands that we want to create. And often, if just look across 10 of your competitors and go, how often are they posting online? How much is their followership growing?
Mm.
Are they individually posting on their LinkedIn page regularly about things? It doesn't even have to be about accounting.
Mm.
Are they creating a brand for themselves? I'd hazard a guess that the majority of what you think are your competitors are doing that badly. So if
Mm.
they're doing that simple thing badly, and you actually go, well, I'm going to take charge of our marketing and I'm going to put in place a few simple things that are achievable, you will elevate yourself above that.
Mm.
And the nice thing about that is people go, you're doing amazing. How do you know that? No, I just see you everywhere. And naturally, people want to be working with other brands that are out there that are doing well. So
Yep.
actually, just by putting yourself out there through marketing, your sales will go up. Um,
Yep.
and um, and then if you have a great product offering, well, it helps a lot more.
Yeah, yeah. So just thinking again about before we move on to kind of some of the challenges firms are facing, when we think about this idea of client expectations changing, um, what do we think? those changes are creating in terms of the opportunity for what we're talking about here in terms of outsourced finance function? What are you seeing in terms of those shifting expectations from your clients that are giving you confidence that you're on the right path and this is the right area to focus your efforts on?
Yeah, so I haven't seen, I thought I'd see more in terms of AI, but I have seen some creep in where people just chuck whatever you've given them into AI and question it.
Mm,
But fortunately, I haven't seen a lot of that. But I do believe more people will think that there are tax experts and think that they're accounting experts
mm,
because they've got ChatGPT or Claude or any one of those as their assistant, um,
mm,
which means you can't just yes send a management pack and think that's okay. You do need to look at it from an accountant and from a human perspective and go, how do I add value to my client?
yeah.
If you're gonna throw something into ChatGPT and don't necessarily throw all your client's information in there, but if you are going to try and add value, well, yeah, that'll be a good starting point because
Mm,
clients' expectations around what an accountant provides, in my mind, is going to start increasing in terms of they want more value. They want more insights in a simple way to understand from things, and they'll expect things a little bit faster. Um,
What do you think's driven that change, particularly around the insight? I mean, I talk about the Amazon effect in terms of that speed of response, and clients now have greater expectation of our ability to respond quickly, and that's because you can order something on a Saturday and get it delivered on a Sunday from Amazon. But in terms of that insight, what do you think's driven that I guess awareness that this exists? Is it just the fact that we're using so much tech and we're seeing what technology will do for us?
Um, yes and no. I mean, like I've also found there's a lot of communities, entrepreneurial communities out there,
Mm,
um, and the more your clients are plugged into communities that share information, the more likely they're going to start expecting more. So, for example, we've got quite a few communities in South Africa where you can go listen to a speaker that's going to tell you strategy around sales and finance and HR and ops, and they'll come back with lots of questions. And when it comes to a finance strategy chat, they may go, "You need to have a budget. You need to know your cash flow. You need to know all these things and your KPIs." And suddenly, we find this often. One of our clients go, "Yo, guys, I need my KPIs. I need this and I need that." That's what my business coach told me. And I think the more plugged in entrepreneurs are into business coaches and communities, the more likely they're going to ask for more things from their accountants. And to be honest, I'm very happy about that. Uh, I don't go, oh no, they're asking me more things. For me, it's an opportunity to say, that's great. Well, this is what we've currently got as our offering for you. Those things are amazing. I'd like to introduce you to one of our fractional CFOs. They can happily sort you out with a forecast, a budget, KPIs, and unpack that further.
yeah,
Because ChatGPT is not going to give them those answers.
no.
And so I'd rather more clients be educated around what's important and what's out there, and then give them the guidance of how that works and how we can support them.
Yeah, and I think the only other point I'd make on this, I think that we are definitely seeing generational shifts here, which are changing expectation and creating opportunity. Because certainly, if we look at millennial Gen Z, who are really the business owners that we're dealing with now, they have, and I say they because I'm kind of a wannabe millennial. I missed out. I'm too old for that, but I like to think I'm a millennial. And the interesting thing is that millennials and Gen Z are much better than my generation ever were at valuing themselves and their time. And I think that's a really interesting point and a really interesting opportunity for us because because they have the ability to value their time, they'll look at things slightly differently in terms of things that they don't want to do. And most business owners don't want to do bookkeeping and accounting. They want to do the thing that they set their business up to do. So this creates a great opportunity for us because people will be more willing to pay somebody to do the things that they don't want to do. That creates the opportunity for us here. Um, there's a question in the box here, Peter, which I'm going to ask you because it's right down your street, I'm sure. And if anybody else has any questions, Philip's mentioned about asking questions, so pop them in the Q&A box, and we'll tackle these. So this first one, Peter, is if we want to promote our outsourced finance function to new clients, what do you think are the most fruitful potential targets for our services, and how should we try to engage with them from a sales perspective?
So I'm assuming targets, you mean clients that you want to
I would
serve.
imagine so. Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and yeah, to be honest,
So actually, there's an interesting one here, Pete. So the same attendees asked put a follow up in here, and it's really a case of they've been providing a full service finance function, and the issue they face is clients grow and then instinctively lead towards the traditional model of getting somebody in house. So I guess it's almost a question of how do we continue to demonstrate that using outsource is still the right way, or do we have to accept that we get to a point in time where clients, perhaps it is the right thing for a client to go in house, and we've done our bit, and we can take pride in what we've done by supporting that client to get to that point where they're of a scale that they need in house. What's the thinking on that?
yeah. So and I see it's from yeah, from Nigel. Like interestingly, I often say to clients, there's going to be a time where you outgrow us, and that's okay. You know, we've been part of your journey, and I think understanding what your ideal client looks like is important because
Mm.
uh, if if uh, if you take on a client and you've got, say, an accountant working, yeah, half a day a week on that client, and in 2 years' time, that client, that same accountant is working 4 days a week on a client. Yeah, it's unlikely that you've been able to scale that client's fees to a point of, yeah, actually being profitable all the way along the way. And for that accountant, it's not very fun working on one client or two clients. So they're not probably very happy with life. Um, Furthermore, you've probably got a very high risk that if that client drops off, a large batch of your revenue disappears out the window. So I think for us, we used to have 20 clients, and one client was 20-30% of our revenue. Now we've diversified our client mix that we're much more comfortable that if any one of our clients drops off, it's okay. We also have a team that have 6 to 10 clients on them, so they feel like they're getting a diverse range. So when a client kind of graduates from us, we often find, because we've got more skills than an in-house team have in terms of technology and understanding of their business, they often retain our services for certain things. So they say, you know, we're going to hire a full-time bookkeeper, but can you do the financials and payroll and I think, yeah, in that way, you should almost walk that journey with a client and go, look, you know, we understand that you've grown, and we think you should probably hire somebody. So I often actually preempt our clients. I think you should be hiring somebody. This is kind of the position you're looking for. You know, we can support that person for the next 3 to 6 months. And, you know, once they're fully onboarded, you know, we can support you in other spaces if you'd like. For me, that's partnering alongside the client and, you know, giving them the best result, but you're also still working with them. And some do exit. That's okay. Yeah. What kind of clients are you looking for? Well, you're probably looking for a mix between the guy that arrived a couple of years ago and in between the person that's exiting, and find many of those types of clients. Where you're going to find them, to be honest, most of our clients come from referrals. It's
Yeah.
scary because I can't turn up Google Ads and get more referrals necessarily. But what does that mean? Well, actually just do a great job with your clients and keep engaging with them regularly and keep showing that you're adding value. And more likely than not, they'll go, I have a great accountant at a barbecue or a braai in South Africa, and you'll get a referral.
Yeah.
But you're not going to necessarily queue up that you're getting 2 referrals next month, which is hard, but that's not how professional services work.
No, and certainly we are in professional services, and I always use a stat that is 70% of all of our new business should come from client referral. And if it doesn't, you probably need to take a look in the mirror and say, what are we not doing to drive our clients to be telling other people what a great job we're doing? And it comes back to some of the things we talked about at the beginning in terms of we've got to be delivering great experience. We've got to be delivering something that when you do your NPS scores, clients are saying, yes, 9 and 10s. So that comes from having that clear message and then doing what you say you're going to do in that message. I mean, that's really the key, isn't it?
Yeah, and I don't want to say it's like a trick, but how many of you have checked your Google My Business page or Google Business page, and how often are you regularly getting your clients to fill out a review? And if your last one was 2 years ago, well, that probably should be a KPI for somebody in the business to regularly get reviews from your clients. And if you're scared about getting a review, well, once again, look at yourself hard in the mirror, because are you providing a great level of service? And if you're trusting that you are, well, then you should trust that you should get a review comfortably. That's a great review.
Yeah, it's almost when a client sends an email and says, "Oh, great, thanks so much for doing that for me." I mean, that's like an open door, isn't it? To look, that was great to hear that we're happy with what we did. Could you possibly just do this for us? I mean, it's really easy, isn't it? So I'm conscious we are cracking through here, Peter. So with time, so let's think a minute about kind of tech and controls and all the things that enable you and your firm, us in our firm, to deliver this service that we're talking about here. So what's your typical tech stack for your outsourced finance function, and is there a typical tech stack?
Yeah, so we very, very like hard on our tech stack. We're 100% zero, so no other tool. We're 100% Dext in terms of processing. And we've got a payroll tool called SimplePay, but so long as you've got a payroll tool that integrates to Xero, I think you're in a good steady state. We absolutely love ApprovalMax for our kind of slightly larger or multi-entity clients. We've tended to find that we've implemented ApprovalMax mostly for groups, for non-profits, for tech companies. So understanding where it's suitable and what problems it solves is quite important. We work with Sift Analytics for reporting. And that's a great reporting tool. And then with Dext, we use Dext kind of the cost and the precision side, the analytics side. So the analytics is for internal. I think then there's industry-specific apps like Sin7, we're big proponents and use it very often. Shopify is quite integral in a lot of our clients. But I think that's probably for external clients. That's the majority of our tools. We have a lot of internal tools though. Things like we run our practice off Carbon, and we're constantly working on building our workflows and improving our workflows with a customer experience kind of mindset. We're sending our proposals through Ignition, using Slack for communication, and I think that probably is Yeah,
Yep.
it's a
Well,
small-ish tech stack, but it covers a lot.
well, interestingly, like you, we're 100% zero, we're 100% Dext. We use Carbon for practice management. We use Ignition for proposals. So we are bang on your tech stack there. We're not using Slack. We're using Teams for internal stuff. But broadly, our client workflow stuff and our internal PM systems mirror yours. And certainly again for us, ApprovalMax is kind of used in pretty much all of our outsourced finance clients because of the control that it gives us over what we're doing because we're doing payments for clients as well. So that's something that are you doing payments for on behalf of clients as well?
We do a handful of payments. It's a service offering where we're looking to build out, but locally there are not a hell of a lot of great tools out
Okay.
there
I did
to
wonder
work
if that,
with.
yeah. Yeah.
Um, so you want to do everything manual.
So we're using Telaroo for most of our payments in the UK. So because we're making payments for our clients, we have to ensure that we're managing that risk and that workflow control, and that's where Approval Max sits for us in terms of making sure that we're getting POs, but we're getting payment authorizations and everything else that we need to make sure that we're managing our risk and our clients' risk. And I think that's the key here, isn't it? And I think payments and the payables process is still a massive growth area and opportunity for me. For a long time it was a missing piece in the jigsaw. We ran this finance function and it was like, oh, but we can't make payments for you. And that was largely because of the risk associated with having to log into a client's bank account to be able to make those payments for them. That's not something we want to do. But the tools are there now to put that control in the hands of the client, enable you to do the hard work for the client. So they've just got a couple of clicks to enable payments to be made. So for me, that really is the last piece in this jigsaw in terms of delivering this truly outsourced finance function. So we're both using similar tech stacks there, Peter. So in terms of how you're using automation and we touched on scale earlier on. Um, uh, where are you seeing automation at the moment? And most interestingly, where do you see it going? Where do you see the opportunities perhaps over the next kind of 12, 18 months?
Yeah, so I think for me, I want to say I'm not a developer, so I've realized, it's easy to spin up something on Replit um, solves a certain problem in your business and connect an API and just roll with it. And I think it's really fun to play around with the new technology out there, the kind of AI app building tools and your ChatGPTs of the world.
Mm,
I think a lot of it's kind of like a kid's playground. It's great to kind of play around, but I think the big uh, kind of the big apps that we currently use, I'm expecting as an accountant that they
they're
knuckle
going to do
down,
the work.
really level up their game, because they've got bigger budgets and a lot of pressure on them to ensure that they're not just doing the same thing they were doing a year ago, that
Yep,
they are using these tools and empowering me to do a better job. And similar to our clients, well, my expectations are shifting. I want more insights. I
yep,
want more from the tool, and I want it to be done easier and faster. So I think just like our clients have expectations, we should have expectations on these providers, and we
yep,
should be pressuring them and and talking to them about how are they, delivering and adding more value to us.
yeah,
So
yep.
zeros in the early stages of Jax, and Dex is playing around a lot with AI. I think that's for me
Yes,
where I'm seeing things need to go, rather than adding
absolutely.
25 new AI tools into my tech stack.
Yep, I'm with you completely, and I think we see all this talk about AI, and Peter, I know you've been around this space for a long time. I'm just a bit older than you probably, so I've been around a little bit longer. But I mean, we went 100% cloud back in 2009, so we've kind of done 16 years now in this space, and it amazes me how we talk about AI and everyone's saying, oh, we've got to do AI, got to do AI. 80% of the UK market is still not doing basic automation. So we like the zero zone data tells us that 60% of users are not using bank feeds. So it's like 60% of the market is still uploading CSVs or keying bank statements. Use of pre-accounting tools like Dex and Auto Entry and HubDoc is at 36%, and I don't believe that. I think that's too high. So when the majority of the market are still not using basic automation, to think that everyone's going to charge out and use AI, I just think is completely misguided. And equally, as accountants, we haven't got to go out and do this ourselves. It's going to be Zero, it's going to be Dex, it's going to be ApprovalMax that are going to do this for us. They will build the AI into their tools, and what we need to do is just make sure that we use the features that are available for us, because Zero built bank feeds and 60% don't use them. So the opportunity is for us to be first movers and use the tools that our partners are building for us. So it's a case of stopping and thinking about what could I do to save a couple of minutes here on each of the elements of the workflow that we're working on to generate some savings in what we do. So I think opportunity is there around tech and automation, absolutely, but don't think you're going to go out and spend a load of money on AI. Just make sure that you talk to your partners, you watch their product updates, and you make sure that you're getting access to the tools that they're building. So that's my bit on kind of automation. And think about what you're doing right now. Are you using all of the automation that's there for you right now? If you're using Dex, are you using auto publish? Are you using supplier rules? Are you using bank rules in Zero? So these are the ways that you can trigger improvements in what you do right now to enable that scale and the ability to deliver this stuff efficiently and effectively. Um,
Yeah.
just to answer the question, Nigel, the payment app that we use is called Tellaroo. So hope you got that this time. Sorry, Peter.
No, no. Well, I think a lot of what you said is great in a sense of like for us, we've scaled a relatively large team. We're now 65 people, and we've
Amazing.
realized that if all we do is look at one app, Dext, and look at moving the needle on auto publish or on setting rules, supply rules. If we focus on the metrics, those metrics, and Dext allows you to get those metrics and say, can we improve those within that tool? We'll be more efficient, and the team will get faster and better at what they do. So I think within each of your tools, you can actually look at one or two aspects of that tool, like bank feeds. How many do we have that are connected? How do we get them all connected or most connected? And actually focus in on that one aspect of that tool, and spend good time drilling down until you get that right. You'll be in a much better position in 2-3 months' time. And then the one thing that I have seen with kind of AI that I did feel was nice is it does allow you as a non-developer, techie person to tap into APIs and pull out data and play around with it that you might not previously have been able to do. And that's allowed us to get some really interesting insights from our payroll tool that they don't have certain reports, but now I can spit out a report that tells me certain information that I would take hours for me to figure out very manually.
Yeah. So conscious we've got a few minutes left, Peter. So so in terms of practical next steps, I mean, what are some of the things that you would suggest firms take time to think about in terms of building out this service line, thinking about KPIs they might want to be tracking, turnaround times? I mean, what sort of tips have you got for people?
Yeah, so I think tool like Ignition for us is a game changer because it allows us to productize and speed up the sales process. So yeah, if you are looking to build out your products, well, define those products and put them into a tool like Ignition so that you get a great client experience. For us, that's important. In terms of KPI, one of the big KPIs that we have is we put clients onto account managers or accountants, and then we track a revenue target per accountant and per team, if you've got a group of accountants in a team, and then against the total salaries. So I have a good metric, and in my head, if I'm getting kind of 2.5 to 4 times somebody's salary, I'm in a happy place. If I'm not, that's not good enough. And you track the success of your products. So if you've got 2 or 3 and you're looking to introduce a new one, you want to make sure that you're tracking how well that's going. And we do that through a spreadsheet, actually, where we track all our new clients coming on board, where they came from, and what the billings are. And I think, you don't need to overcomplicate it initially. But I think if you're going to dive into offering an outsourced finance product, little things like, have you got that really well communicated? Have you got like a one-pager? Are you advertising that on your social channels? Is it well communicated on your website? Whoever's engaging in sales, do they understand the product and what you are selling, what you're not selling? Because it's important that you don't oversell things and your team need to deliver on something that's unreasonable. And look to people around you in the market, because as much as Will's an accountant and I'm an accountant, I'm more than happy to share information with Will. I'm more than happy to go, what's working for you, because I don't see him as a competitor. And I think we've got a big enough community of accountants that you can actually ask other accountants questions. And I think tap into that, because that's going to be quite powerful for you.
And the big thing for me, I think, firstly, if you're going to build out this service line, be really clear on what it is you're doing. So get your messaging right, clear, consistent, communicate it really, really well. Think about your tech stack. So kind of something to collect data, something to process the data, something to manage the controls. So ApprovalMax is a perfect fit there for giving you those approvals and those controls over what you need to do. Your reporting tool. So you've got input, process, output, control. That's like the core of what you need here. And then you can only do this stuff if you're doing really good bookkeeping and you're doing it every single day. Like we haven't touched on that much at all, but the majority of the market are still seeing bookkeeping as a means to an end. They do bookkeeping because they have to do a VAT return. They do bookkeeping because they have to do management accounts. But bookkeeping is the power. Bookkeeping is the thing that gives you the data to have the kind of conversations that Peter touched on. So you've got to have your message, you've got to have your tech, you've got to have your process, which is around doing this stuff every single day. And then you've got to have the right people in the team. Because the real value of this proposition to a client is you could recruit one person and you might recruit an FD who then has to do some bookkeeping, or you can recruit a bookkeeper that might have to try and do FD work. That isn't going to work. We can give you the right amount of each piece of skill set that you need. We can give you a bookkeeper when you need a bookkeeper. We can give you a credit controller when you need a credit controller. We can give you a financial controller or an FD or a CFO at the point that you need it. This is the value of this service line, is giving clients access to a mixed team that would just not be viable for them to take on themselves.
Yeah, and well, just on that, I think what we realized over the years that's been quite important is when you look at your service line items that you end up needing to deliver to a client, let's say it's a tax return or a set of financial statements or whatever that service line is, if it's secretarial work with HMRC or Companies House, the frequency of those service offerings often differ. There's often work that it's core to the business that runs monthly and weekly and daily, and then there are things that come up less frequently. And what we realized is by decoupling out the infrequent tasks, and putting those onto a kind of, let's say, a specialist, we were enabling our kind of accountants to focus on the core rhythms and not get stuck out of rhythm from what they were doing each month, by having to do certain other tasks. So we've kind of got these little like departments now that focus in on secretarial or kind of tax returns. That I know not every business can do that, but I think if you're looking to scale, look at what is your next hire. If you hired somebody that focused on secretarial work, that would free up all these other people in my team that don't really know what they're doing in that space, but they kind of need to do it. And now you're freeing them up to focus in on their client base. They could probably deliver a better service and more revenue by having that function taken away from them. So I think that's been really important for us. And yeah.
Excellent. So if anybody has any other questions, do pop them in the Q&A box, and we're happy to take those. Just in terms of kind of wrapping up here, QR codes here for contact details for us at Apple Advisory Plus, Peter there at Iridium, and of course ApprovalMax. Big thanks to the ApprovalMax team for working with us to put this session on today. We always like our App of the Month webinars to be thought leadership focused. We want to provide insight and content that is useful and valuable to you. So I hope we've covered that. So big thanks to the ApprovalMax team for doing that. Peter's got a question. I've considered outsourcing some of the compilation work, so I'm assuming there, Philip, you mean kind of year-end stuff, pulling work together, but I'm not sure how to do it without affecting client trust. Have you approached this? So firstly, we don't outsource our work, so we do everything in house. We've built teams to deliver that effectively. We use a lot of apprentices. For me, the bookkeeping is critical here, and it's almost kind of the last thing I'd want to outsource. We want to control the quality of that work, and we want to engage with clients in a really effective manner. So we haven't outsourced. I think there's definitely tools here that help automate. I don't know whether you're in SA or the UK, Philip, but certainly we use a lot of apprenticeships here in the UK. So we're taking on school leavers, we're training them, and it's a really efficient and effective way for us to build that capability in-house within our team. Peter, are you outsourcing any work, or your team doing everything in your team?
Yeah, I think we do all our own financials because that's a compilation of financials. We do our own in-house. Where we take on a project and we realize that we're unable to deliver on that project's financials, we'll often have a conversation with the client and say, hey, we don't have capacity, but that's even before we sign up that client. We don't have capacity to deliver on these financials. We'll prepare the information and it'll go to party A to complete. And that's okay for me, but for my clients, I want to make sure I'm controlling the quality of the financials that go out. So we're definitely not outsourcing that.
Yeah, I think, Philip, a lot of this is about having a plan. So stopping and thinking about what your medium to long-term plan looks like. Where do you want your firm to be? What does it look like in 3 years' time? And starting to make decisions now about building that firm in 3 years. So if you want growth and you want to build a team, then the likelihood is you want to make sure that team can deliver all of that work. If you don't want to take on staff, then outsourcing is clearly a sensible route to go. So much of this is going to be dependent on what your plan is and what you want your firm to look like in 12 months, 3 years, 5 years, and often that's where you kind of have to start, because that will then help you kind of understand where you want your firm to go and what it needs to look like. So hope that helps.
Yeah, just one last thing. I think often as you're growing, you take on ad hoc work just to make ends meet, and that kind of spirals, and you underprice your retainers, and then you get to the end of a cycle and you go, I've got 25 sets of financials. How am I ever going to get these done? And I think it is a juggling act when you're small scaling. There's a lot of responsibilities probably on you as a business owner, and as you're able to kind of afford more people, you can divulge responsibility down. And often it's around planning out and going, well, in 12 months, I need to hire somebody. I'm going to hire them here. It's going to be a bit of a pinch, but that's going to free me up to do other things to get more clients. And we've often hired and hoped, where we hadn't necessarily got all the clients in to cover everything. But we've made a calculated decision to hire somebody that will alleviate a lot of pressure or make us more money.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you, Peter. That draws us to a close. I can't see more questions come in the box. So thank you all again for taking time out of your busy diaries to join us. I do hope it's been useful for you and you've taken a couple of snippets of wisdom there. As Peter said, he's very open to conversations. I'm always very happy to chat with anybody about almost anything. So do get in touch with us via LinkedIn, whatever your preferred means is. Thank you, Peter, for joining us and sharing your experiences on the session today. Thanks again to the team at ApprovalMax. Do take a look at ApprovalMax. It's a fantastic tool to help you manage those approval workflows, whether it's POs, payments, and so on. So do take a look. And if you have any questions at all, the team will be really happy to answer them for you. So enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Thank you again, Peter. Great to talk to you. And we will see everybody hopefully on another webinar next month. So thank you all very much for joining us. Have a good rest of the day. Thanks, Peter. Take care.
Yes. Cheers,
Cheers now,
Zach.
everybody.